Hello. So here we see the live preview in Caisy, how it works. And in this video, I want to cover the technical aspects, how to set up the live preview with React. In this example, we following this documentation page and we use the repository you find connected here. This uses the simple block template with Next.js pages router. You can follow along cloning the same repository, which is public. And the technique that you learn, you can apply it to app router and to Remix as well. It's just important that all of the techniques we use, the library works in the client side. You should not load it in the server side. Best practice. It will make sense after we are done that you use dynamic imports to offload this only in your preview mode. Maybe you want to have two deployments, one for the draft and preview mode and one for your production environment. It depends a bit on your setup. You can pack it all in one and just use dynamic variables, environment variables, or just the URL params and some authentication API to start the preview mode. But yeah, let's dive in. So we start by cloning this repository. So in here, git clone, move this into the screen. So this is the starter template Next.js with pages router. We will go in here and I will open code. And let's make the window a bit smaller so you see everything. All right. So in here you find there is an env.sample in Next.js. What you need is an env.local file. So I will duplicate this env.local. And then we will go back to the documentation page. So this is the basic setup you have for every template. You would need the Caisy project ID, the API key, and this environment variable, which we make public because we want to use it in the client side. This is just a primitive mode. How we can enable draft mode, maybe if you have more sensitive data, something you don't want to have public right away, you want to hide this behind the authentication wall, but that depends a bit on the framework and we won't cover it and use a simpler approach and just use this environment variable. So yeah, we will need this environment variable, which I'm just copying from here. I will go to my env.local, I will paste it in. And then in Caisy, we will create a new project. We will use the simple block. I will call this live preview demo simple block, but you can call it anything. You can also set up a title. It's just important once we are in here, you have some demo content. And the first thing we need is to get the project ID. You can copy it from here. Then we go back to VS Code and replace the placeholder with the ID. So now what we need is an API key. Here in development, API keys, we create a new one. This one is just for dev. Yeah, we allow draft mode. This is important. Toggle or keep it on. And then let's copy the code here. Paste it in. So now we have set up the environment. I'm using Yarn. You can follow along with any other package manager as well. I will install my packages and then run yarn dev. So dev will start the next server in dev mode. We have here GraphQL Gen, which we won't cover. There's another Doku page for it. But it's a basic Next.js app with the latest of today's Next version using React 18. And yeah, there shouldn't be any difference with new React or Next.js versions. But let's check the running app. So we open this in the browser, and I need to remove the HTTP. So now if you start the template, you will find that there's this toast message, and we can check the template here. So you can click this link, and then we jump to Caisy and complete the onboarding. There are more steps to it. We already did all of that. We can go to, let's say, for example, the about page. In here we have the headline, and let's make this ours. We will publish this, and in here on about we now see our headline. So this is already working. We want to get rid of this toast. It's inside here. You can search for toast. This is just part of the usual onboarding. I will remove this in the app. Then the toast is gone. Okay, so let's just verify that we can use the preview mode. We have set up this environment variable, and under services and GraphQL, we will set up the client where we pass here the API key. And what I will do is I will use Caisy preview, and by default this is false, but I want this to be true if, and we have already the environment variable set. If this environment variable equals true, then we should have preview mode. Let's restart the dev server. And so here we have this content right now. Let's go to Caisy and add something. And this is still in change. This is not published yet, but still, if we refresh here, we should get the content. That is our draft mode content. So going back to the documentation, we have done all of this. Now we want to set up the live preview. We can copy this link. I'm going to settings, and then on development again, previews, I create a new preview. This is my local dev preview. I will add a blueprint here, so you can have different preview URLs for every blueprint. Right now we've edited the page, so I will add the preview URL to the page. This document field slug is using the slug of the page, which is the URL part, and we want to pass the project ID because our project ID in our project is a private environment variable. We don't expose it to the client by intent, and this lets us keep the project ID private. We only append it to our preview mode session, and we enable live preview here. This is essential. All right, so this is automatically saving. We can go back to our page. Let's say here about, and then we open up the live preview and we see the headline. If I make changes now, nothing will update right away. I have to refresh the page. And that's what we want to change now. So we have done this. Now we need to install the packages. That is Caisy Live Preview React and Caisy Live Preview JavaScript. We go in here. Let's split our terminal. Install those two packages. Once we have done this, we need to use the initial, like we start the collaboration session. Under the hood, the live preview works as if another collaborator joins your project. It's just a read-only collaborator, so to say. And yeah, I'm using this code snippet and I'm putting it right in my _app file in my pages router _app. That's where we deleted the post just before. And yeah, I'm missing a few imports. So we import the router from Next, the use effect from React, and this is from our library. So this returns the close method just to clean up the WebSocket connection if this is dismounting. And the enable live preview is now toggled again by our environment variable. But remember, this can be different. This can be something more dynamic, something based on some of headers you supply. Yeah. We will read the project ID and the preview token from the URL. We can inspect that in Caisy here. So this full URL, I will just paste it here, has more information like the blueprint group ID, the project ID, the Caisy preview token. All of it is passed to your project. So now this initiates the session, but this alone is required for everything else to work, but alone it doesn't do anything. So here we have the page props. This is in Next.js pages order, the properties of the full page. I'm loading these here in this template. There's the get static props. In here I'm calling props with the page, and I'm using Caisy with the generated SDK to run GraphQL queries. These queries are defined here. For example, page by slug is getting all pages by the specific slug. In the page, we've defined our components, and in here we have, for example, the headline component, which has an ID, and the ID is important in order for us later to get the elements. So never forget to query the ID in those GraphQL queries. Okay, so we have done this part. This will take no effect, but in order to get the updates, this covers the queries again. So we need this bit. It's use Caisy update. This wraps your existing props with the use updates props. So we pass them in and we get back reactive props. So whenever something changes, this page will re-render because it's a reactive hook. So keep it in mind. If for performance reasons you don't want your full page to be re-rendered, you don't have to put this file or this method into your _app file. You can put it into specific components. You can put it behind some logic. It's up to you. What I will do is I will replace the page props with my live props now. And then we should get live updates here. So let's go back to the page and restart the live preview session. So now if we make changes here, you see the updates coming right away. And you see that the front end isn't optimized for very long strings. So yeah, and this works for the sub headline. This works for the full text here as well. So you see we have changed this bit. This is because in the _app, we wrapped our whole page, the navigation, all of the components and the footer. This is the easiest bit to do like this, but it's it's better in production to not have this code at all running. So you put it behind the import dynamic, and there's like a preview wrapper that you only load if you really want the draft and preview mode. So that's why I said in production you might have two different deployments of your app, or you use an API route and then redirect the user to somewhere where you just load the preview when it's needed. All right, but that's not all. We can also create highlights like this, so the user knows where to edit and can jump right there. But in order to do this, we need a little helper function. This function is very simple. You could either import it from our library or just implement it yourself because it's just 4 lines. So it's the get Caisy inspect props. That's what we call it. It sets 2 data attributes on your HTML tags. Let's do this for this headline. You see an example here. So we go back to VS Code. We open up the headline component here, and we import from Caisy the get inspect props. Here we have the H1. So this is a bit tedious for the developer because he always has to remember to put this on, and we need it on every component. So here there's no guarantee that the component is found, so I will force this right there. That is the get inspect props for the headline, and then we will do the same for the sub headline. So here this ID is the ID of your current document or component, like your content entry, and this field name is the API field name of your field. So in Caisy, we can now refresh, and we don't see anything yet because we haven't imported any additional CSS we need. So down here, I think this is the full example. Yeah, you see that we imported the preview CSS. We will need this in our app or anywhere you use the live preview. I will add this here. So now we got that working, and I can click on edit, and I jump right where I want to go. But you see in the other component, we haven't done the step yet. So we have not the edit button yet. We would need to wrap this div with the same properties. We can do this. I think it's the full text component. So in here, that's a larger one, but we can also do the, my autocomplete is already suggesting it. And then we have, this is wrong here, wrongly generated. We have the ID on the top level. So it's again, I think the same process as before, field name ID, and now we have the edit here as well, as you see. So we can click there and we can jump from one component to another, and if you look closely, you will see that the URL will update as well. So this allows you to navigate the Caisy UI of our app. There's a last part. It's not mandatory. It's this little indicator if the connection is working, and it just helps you to give a little bit feedback to the user because the session can time out. And yeah, so I would recommend to add that. I will just add it here in the .app again, in for the sake of the example. So now if I'm you cannot see it because it's out of the screen. Wait a second. So let's go back onto the About page, open the preview again, and now you see this. You can drag it around. Caisy live preview connected, with which is just the feedback that the live preview is working. And yeah, still as we type, we get the updates. So adding all of this to your project will help the editors just navigate easier and have a much higher speed and velocity in creating and editing content. Thank you. Bye bye.